Everybody, it is Trac Bannon. I'm here with Bryan Finster, and you are on the road to DevHops. Bryan and I have been chatting, and we decided that we were going to record ourselves because we like to have a little bit of psychological safety and just kick back at the end of the day, enjoy our fresh drink of choice, and talk about what happened. Commiserate a little bit, joke around a little bit, and we'd love to share it with you. Bryan, what are you drinking tonight?
You know, I live in Northwest Arkansas, and we have a plethora of brews here. And I'm drinking a Lost 40 Hunter Oktoberfest today. Because it is October as we're filming this, just before Halloween.
It is.
So I thought it was appropriate.
Is that a hoppy kind of a taste to that? What kind of taste is it?
It's not IPA hoppy, but it's definitely got some hops to it. I mean, Oktoberfest beers, if you know anything about that, how that works, a little bit of hops in there. Yeah.
Well, I have decided to bring with me my pandemic drink of choice, and that would be the White Claw. Now, of course, I am drinking tangerine, which is a newer flavor, which was not in play at the beginning of the pandemic. However, in my beer glass, it does in fact look like water.
It does look like water. So you could do that while you're at work.
I could, but I wouldn't. Because it's okay to let loose at the end of the day, not so during the middle of it. So,
so what are we talking about today, Tracy?
Well, I thought there are a couple of different topics. One, you and a group of other snarky McFunpants have been talking about this concept of scaled agile DevOps. So I'd love to talk about that. And maybe we can poke around a little bit about, I don't know, topics like code coverage, and you get your opinion on that.
So you just want to trigger me, right, Trey?
I just want to trigger you. I just want to poke the bear. Poke the bear. That's right.
Yeah, so scaled agile DevOps actually was an idea that spawned back in 2019. And I'll show the page here in a minute, but a little bit of backstory. We back when I worked for Walmart, and I was leading the Walmart dojo. We had a small conference, private conference up in Minneapolis for the Dojo Consortium. They had about 60 people there from Fortune 100 companies. And we had some great speakers. We had Kent Beck there. We had Michael Nygaard there. I mean, it was an amazing opportunity for just conversation in a small group, and a whole bunch of friends who had been helping each other remotely. And at the end of the conference, we decided there's some action we wanted to take. How do we drive it forward? How do we help other people outside the consortium? And from that came the Dojo Consortium website. But we're sitting there with a wall full of Post-its of ideas of things we might want to try to get done. And I said, what we need is a scaling framework. Of course, everybody started throwing things at me.
Oh. Did you add that you wanted to have a maturity model as well as the framework?
We did need a very good diagram. And so I'm sitting there at dinner, and I'm sitting next to Ross Clanton, who was really kind of one of the fathers of the Enterprise Dojo movement. And Ross very quietly over his beer said, "Scaled Agile DevOps Maturity Framework. So you too can be a SADMF." And I went, oh, and I went home and I registered the URL. Now I've been really busy. And it wasn't until like a couple weekends ago that I was like, you know what, it's time. And I started building the website. And so here we have the Scaled Agile DevOps Maturity Framework. We're at 2.4 right now. Changes come all the time. And of course, as soon as we reversion, it invalidates the certification you've already paid for. So,
well, and it's $500 the certification, right? So once you're certified, you have to recertify, or wait.
I believe you get what you pay for.
Oh, okay.
And so a base level is $5.
Oh,
it will be once we have a way to collect that money. In the meantime, it's just IOUs, but it's $5 to be just SADMF certified. Now, if you want to get a high level of certification, if you want to be like a fleet admiral, and I'll explain why that's important in a minute. It'll probably cost you $1,000, because there's it's special.
But it gets invalidated when a new version comes out.
Well, of course.
Okay. All right. Just making sure that we have the, we have the business case and the monetary aspect of this, played out in advance.
No, no, no. I mean, you wouldn't want it to become obsolete. You need to stay.
No, it needs to be changing constantly and chronically.
Yeah, and it's only really special if you're paying money for it, And I think the most important thing about the framework is that, the tagline right there is enterprise transformation without the risk of culture change. Nobody wants their organization to change. They just want change.
Right.
And so what we do is we've introduced the release convoy. And the reason for convoys is because, other frameworks have things like other less agile metaphors that are more rigid and being able to they can go forward and backwards, but not really turn left or right very easily. Convoys can turn. And so we thought convoys are more agile.
Yeah. There's a part of me singing a trucker song from the late 70s, early 80s, whenever you talk about the release convoy. I'm just putting it out there.
No, we had a different mindset for convoys. And it was like, a convoy of ships. Being hunted by a wolf pack of submarines, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. So,
I won't go through every single one of these, right, from the release convoy. I just want to point out a couple from this page that are my absolute favorites. One is the press gang, right? Now, I will say that everything that's on this website comes from things that are either wildly exaggerated anti-patterns or very mildly exaggerated anti-patterns, very mildly, right? The press gang is something I've heard all the time about how developers, they just want to, we want to make sure that, number one, the developers are fully allocated at all times, and they always want to work on new and interesting things. We can't tie them down to a product team.
No, because that doesn't have any pizzazz. That has no interest to it. I'll get bored if I'm writing something that I'm becoming an expert about.
Yeah. And so the press gang, the way that works is we have feature captains. Every feature is part of the convoy. And so we have a feature captain who goes to the press gang, which is, and they go to the coding pool and extract 2 to 20 developers to form a feature team. And then once
2 to 20?
2 to 20.
2 to 20. Okay.
Size of the feature, 2 to 20 coders. And then at the end of end of coding that feature, they are returned to the pool to await their next adventure.
And so an important part of that is that there's not a continuity from feature to feature that they're working on. So it's all brand new so that they have that excitement. No?
It's all brand new, but it doesn't matter about the continuity because development is just typing.
Well, that's true. It's just hands-on keyboard. We sling code. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. The work is keystrokes. It's really what the work is. And I'm a developer. I've been for a long time, and you are too. I know. And so we know that the real work is the typing.
It is left click, right click, mouse click, click. Yes.
The other one that I find particularly good is we really want to build quality in. We know that this is a thing. We don't want to, just like have something at the end we do. We want to build quality into all the things we do. And so we have the tribunal for building quality in. And the way the tribunal works is that when a convoy is delivered, we identify all of the defects that occurred, and there will be many because it's a convoy. And then we identify each individual developer that caused those defects.
Okay.
And we help them find opportunities outside of our organization. We reduce the things that cause poor quality.
Oh, I like that. And you can so you get defect attribution. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they can go find other opportunities, and we improve our quality by removing those people.
And that keeps everybody happy because you're getting rid of the source of defects, and the developer, since they weren't getting maybe enough enjoyment or newness, they get to go out and find newness.
Now, I would like to point out that process could cause stress for management. And so we've introduced the psychological safety principle, where we just use raw metrics to measure individuals, right? We identify those defects. And then the automated HR as a service terminates people automatically, or I'm sorry, encourages them to find other sources of income. And because it can be entirely too stressful for management to do that, it would harm their psychological safety. So we wouldn't want that to be.
All right, I got to go on a tangent here, Brian.
Yeah.
And especially since I see the icon on your backdrop. Reminds me of a Star Trek episode where you have to report to the just when your artificial war has gone on and you have been marked as a casualty, you simply are given a message that you are to report to the destroyment unit that I don't remember the name of.
Oh, I remember that episode, the original series. Yes, they go to a planet where warfare is completely run by computers, but they want to keep it real, so there's real casualties and people are
exactly. So you just show up when it's your specific time. I'm thinking that, depending on how technology goes, that could be a next version on the horizon, on the roadmap, on the backlog for scaled agile DevOps. Like if HR as a service is automatically going to terminate you, maybe it
just do it randomly.
It terminates you, right? Oh, that would be even better.
Even better. Because then it removes the poor quality from the industry.
Right. Oh, I like it. This could be good.
I'll take it under advisement. Well, I'll send it up to the SADMF board and see where that goes.
But that's totally.
I know that you've been reading this. Do you have any favorites?
Oh my gosh, I do. My favorite is the post stand up, where you're making sure that after the stand up, there are some additional defects that are lower priorities in the features, but you have to address them anyways. So you have a stand up about the stand up. So you have the post stand up, and then my favorite part of the entire thing is the post stand up review. So you have to make sure that you have documentation for each feature. So each feature captain can submit a daily report using a special SAD update form and email it to the Commodore, who consolidates it all so that you don't lose a thing. I mean, to heck with backlogs, to heck with bug tracking tools. You have your stand-up, your post stand-up, and then you have your post stand-up review.
It's important to have process. Process is the most important thing.
It is. I mean, I know it's so cliche that they say people, process, technology, culture. I mean, if we just go for process, that's it. Forget about the people part. Forget about the culture part, because that's risky. Just go for tech second, process first, and you're done.
It is much more efficient.
It is much more efficient.
And just one more thing before we go on to our next topic. The advanced certification. So DevOps engineers providing real experience solving SAD engineering dilemmas. And this is really important. This is a team activity where if you want a really high performing team, you have to, every 8 weeks, you have to spend a week for the team to train for this, because the certification expires every 8 weeks. But it's really important to make sure that the team is truly depressed.
I am not even going to look at any of the initials for this. I am not going to reduce it to acronyms. I'm going to float right by that. Just going right by that, Brian.
That's okay. I did it for you. But I'll say that I've gotten a disturbing number of not really responses to me, but I've seen a disturbing number of responses to people asking if it's a joke. Or more important, and actually kind of warmed my heart to see people screaming that you don't need a scaling framework. And you know what? I agree.
Well, but there's a part of me that wonders if they should get that notification to report to the destroying unit. Because although it looks real enough, right? Non-commercial, used with attribution.
People don't do documentation.
That's true.
See, if they read it.
Well, you only have to read the parts that you need. You can ignore the rest. You don't have to have continuity from topic to topic. Just pluck out what you need and go.
That's true.
Right?
So if anybody wants to take a look at this, you can go to scaledagiledevops.com, or if you don't want to remember that, just sadmf.com. Both of them will get you there. And if you want to contribute, just click on the SADBOC link, and you can contribute to the SAD body of knowledge.
Speaking of sad body of knowledge, tangential topic that we should really chat through. You and I know are in lockstep about this, but I just want to kvetch about it a little bit more. Had the conversation today about code coverage and how important code coverage was. And my brain exploded. It's exploded because code coverage, it's an archaic measurement that it was intended to mean good things, but it's been so convoluted and so weaponized.
Well, contextual metric.
Well,
it's contextual, right? Because I use code coverage data.
You do, but again, in the context, if I'm comparing team to team, people start to compare teams to one another on their code coverage, or module to module even. And it is, you will make decisions. You should be making decisions. I better drink. I'm getting intense.
You know, while you're drinking, can you think of many other industries where you don't need to understand the work to manage it? Yeah.
I had this conversation again today too. Oh my goodness. So
go ahead.
No, go back to Unity. So going back to code coverage. The intention was, it was well intended in its context. So I do want to understand, if I'm automating the testing, how well I'm doing against that white box of code, right? I can look in it, I can see it. I want to see the branches. I want to see how much I've done. But it can be a very false metric. Not just, don't even talk about others, just talking about your own world. It can even be a false metric in your own world because it doesn't measure the quality of the test, just that there was a.
Well, it's a negative. I mean, it's an interesting metric, right? Because it's one of the very few metrics I can think of that's a negative metric, where only if it's at low is it bad. Right? But if it's high, it's not good.
Well, it's implied. Somebody thinks that it's good. You just have to hit that target. But how many times have you seen assert true? That's it.
So true story, in a previous organization in the area I was in, all of us on our goals for our annual evaluation had achieved 90% code coverage. Now, I don't know how they could attribute that to an individual. And it might have been that it was only on the goals of the senior engineers in the area, because we were responsible for that. 90% code coverage. And so everybody pushed for 90% code coverage. And I saw the tests.
Okay.
And it was terrifying. And so 90% code coverage in that environment is worse than 20% code coverage.
But compare that code coverage to the defect density that you start to see. So that's where things get real, is when you're looking.
No, it doesn't matter.
Oh, wait. Did I use a bad term? Did I use a bad word?
No, you're releasing every quarter, so you don't get any feedback on your defect rates. It's fine.
Okay.
Right. So the code coverage is really important. No, I mean, this is a thing that when I rant against this, people always think I don't like code coverage at all, but I use code coverage reports, like you said, to go and try to find where we have important code, risky code that may not be tested sufficiently.
Right.
I don't give a damn about getters and setters. That's just pointless, right? I care about the code that's actually doing something. Are we testing it sufficiently? And I would never chase branches for rare error handling unless I was bored.
Right.
I don't need 100% code coverage. I know it might be blasphemy to some people, especially in the Ruby community, but I don't need that, right? I just need enough confidence that I can deploy on Friday evening while being on call, and then take my wife out to a movie and not worry about it.
Exactly.
That's the level of coverage. That's correct. But then when you take it outside the team, it's completely meaningless. It loses all the context as soon as you take it outside the team.
Well, one of the organizations that I worked with a prior employer, the client that we were working for wanted those code coverage. They wanted code coverage, and we had multiple lines of business. So they were looking at different teams within the lines of business, comparing them within the lines of business, and then trying to compare across the lines of business. The archetypes, right? The architectures of the different lines of business, they were not all identical, even though there were enterprise capabilities that were being provided. So the numbers at that point were moot. When you compare them to one another, they meant nothing. But to a point that you often make, it became something easy to weaponize. It became easy to compare A to B, and there was no A to B. This apples to oranges, to your point. So this is one of those times where it's a good thing that has been turned into a bad thing. Well, and it's reining it in that's going to make a difference. It's helping.
I had a really good conversation with a good friend of mine, Topo Paul. He's a VP at a large fintech company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a little Indian, I'm an individual contributor, but he challenged me on, I said that teams should be responsible for internal to the team saying, this is our minimum code, because that's what I do. I just put pre-commit hooks that if it drops below this, we really, why did we go down, right?
Right.
It can go up, but it can never go down, right? Unless we have a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, but what if you are coming into a new team as a manager of that team, and that team is setting those standards? What would you do? I said, well, I would work with the team. I've never met them before. I would, we would learn about each other, and I'd start asking sort of probing questions about what their quality process is. Not how they test, but what their quality process is. I'd find out if they gave me information about, automating things like, linting and code complexity, and what do they do as far as their total quality complex. I'd work with them over time, and if I found there was gaps, I would make suggestions, and we'd improve. But I would coach them on improved quality process instead of going, "Why isn't your code coverage higher?" Right, and that's really what it should be. Is that code coverage doesn't tell us anything about quality.
Well, it's like, why is your heart rate? Why is your heart rate 74 right now? That's a terrible heart rate. I can't believe that's your heart rate. Was that your resting heart rate? Is that your sleeping heart rate? Did you just get up and jog up the stairs?
No, that's just crazy talk. It should always be 60 beats per minute.
Oh, always. That's the target. Okay. All right. So Topu is right to ask you that question, right?
Yeah, he was.
What exactly would you do? And that's a good lesson for anybody who's listening to us. They need to cue in on that.
Yeah.
Code coverage is not evil. It can be used incorrectly, but look at quality holistically.
Right.
Look at, like, testing is part of every aspect. Quality is part of every aspect of the entire, if you want to make it a figure eight, whatever you want to make it, an infinity symbol, it's part of the entire ecosystem. It has to always be there.
Speaking of which, on the SADMF website, it absolutely recommends that you have a unit testing team whose job it is to write all the test automation for the coder. Because you want to maximize coder productivity, and testing detracts from their ability to write code.
There's probably a lot of truth there. I once was in a situation where, honest to goodness, we ran out of funds. They had not, whoever had done, and I was not part of the estimation, but when they did the estimations on what this product was going to take, they did not include any kind of automated testing, any kind of lifespan for that. It was all going to be towards the end. It was all going to be hands-on. You're going to hand it over to the QA folks. Got the buy-in to put in automated unit testing, had to do a little bit of upskilling, right? Had to help folks understand, here's how you're going to do that.
Yep.
And then they said, it is taking away from the developers. Let's have these other folks do it. So I actually had that happen. And then as they started to do it, they realized, we're going to have to maintain this. This is more code. We can't maintain more code. Get rid of this. No joke. No joke. You know what happened to my brain that day? It exploded.
Yeah, I can't work in that environment anymore.
Well, you can if you come home to, hops.
No,
I
just can't. No,
okay.
I just can't. I care too much about the work.
I'd have to agree with you there. My friend. So, Well, Brian, we are getting suspiciously close to about a half an hour. This is our inaugural conversation this way. Now, you and I have been talking for a lot longer than that, but this is the first time we've recorded it for others to hear, well, other than spouses to lean in and listen to us chat.
I'm sure as we get more practice at this, we can iterate to better.
Oh, we better iterate to better. And following the framework as certified. Look, if folks are interested in hearing us chat or rant on different topics, or if they have questions for us, I think you've been up to creating a mailbox for us. I believe it's
I did. If anybody, because this is something I really like, in just a little bit. There's one of my favorite podcasts, which is Soft Skill Engineering Podcast, and they do listener questions, and the best questions come from not us, because we're kind of we can only think of the things that make us facepalm, but then there's all these other things we haven't heard of yet that will make us facepalm. And if only we had those questions, that would be amazing. And we could drink I might have to switch to bourbon for some. We'll find out.
Well, I think we're going to end up with a scale. Like these questions will be, this is a 1 beer scale. This is a 6-pack question. This is a bourbon, right? But what's the email address that people should hit up, Brian?
So it's DevHops, it's as in, hops, devhops.podcast@gmail.com.
There you go. Fantastic. Brian Finster, thank you so much for your time today. I'm Trac Bannon, and this is On the Road to DevHops with Trac and Brian. Cheers.
Hey. Bye.
Bye.